Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Thanks for participating today. We have an update with Nick Appleyard, CEO of TriStar Gold. For anyone that's brand new to the story, I'd recommend checking out some of the previous webinars because this really is going to be an update after the public hearing last month. So feel free to check those out on the Adelaide Capital YouTube channel. And we won't be working off a presentation. We'll mostly just be doing an update and Q&A. So feel free to enter any questions you have into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, or you can email them to me. And even though we're not working off a presentation, this session will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to know more about those, you can find them on the company's presentation on their website, which was recently updated for December, I believe. And with that out of the way, I'd like to introduce Nick Appleyard, CEO of TriStar Gold. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Exciting times.
It is, yeah. It's there's a real buzz in the company right now.
So maybe just to start out, you could give us a little bit of an update on what's happened and how the public hearing went, and any insights you can provide there.
Yeah, no. So I mean, as most people know, we've been really focused on this permit, getting this permit, which is microphone fell away, which is a major milestone in advancing a project in Brazil. And the team have been doing great. So we had our site visit at mid-year, went great. In the public hearing, everyone was, really keyed up about and really, a little anxious about, because you never really know what's going to happen. And that was just a few weeks ago in late November, and it went great. And so now we're moving forward beyond the public hearing to hopefully, or anticipating receiving our LP sometime in Q1 next year.
And so what are the next steps? So what happens between now and potentially receiving the permit?
Pretty well, it's out of our hands now. I mean, I know we did have to sort of compile what they call the book, which is basically a register of all of our outreaching prior to the public hearing, to show the authorities that everybody was contacted, everybody had a chance to have a say, and that's an extensive sort of thing. And then that book also contains word for word breakdown of the public hearing itself, of the questions that were asked and the answers that were given. So that's all been done and handed over to the authorities already. Really, it's in their hands now. I believe it's got to go through a review process, get handed over to a committee for approval. And I think at that time, they sort of look at what sort of environmental bond would be required to start this project, do that calculation, approve that, and that's really it. It comes back to the Secretary of CMS for approval, and that's why we hope it'll be in Q1.
Did anything come out in the public hearing that was unexpected? Any opposition, anything at all?
There was nothing unexpected, and there was no real opposition. People had the standard questions. What happens to the water for the town? What happens to the environment? What are the companies doing? And things that we knew were going to. They're very, very standard questions that we knew were coming, and we had answers ready for. But I think the overriding questions that came out were related to the pre-mandated royalties you have to pay in Brazil. And there's a breakdown on how they are distributed within the country, and sort of some stay federal, some go to the state capital, some come down to the township level. But because we're about 700 kilometers from the township administration, there are a lot of questions about, will that money be distributed down to the township? And, so people want the project to go forward, but obviously want the benefit of the project to come to the township around the project rather than a administrative center, 700 kilometers away. But that's nothing that we can control, and I know they're all talking about how they can manage that. So.
Okay, and then going back a little bit, last June you had the Pará State government site visit. Can you talk a little bit about what the goal of that was, and what the major takeaways from both of these events have been?
Yeah, so the site visit, the way that the process runs, from my understanding, is we submitted our EIA, which is a massive document. The state authorities in all the different disciplines review that document. They then go to site, effectively to ground truth what we've told them and what we've written in that document. They can see that what's on the ground is the same as what's been written in the document, and also to see that we're currently good stewards of the project that we're running. So they did look at our recycle processes, how we're handling vehicle cleaning, how we're handling fuel oils and things like that, and making sure everything is controlled properly, just to make sure we're good stewards. And as I said, to ground truth, if where we said, okay, there's a dam going here, process plants going here, that those sites look as they expected them to look. So it's ground truthing it and being able to look our staff in the eye and talk to them face to face about it as well.
And can you remind us of some of the advantages of this particular deposit from a permitting perspective?
Yeah, from a permitting perspective, I mean, it's got an amazing number of advantages, and that's one of the reasons when I did my original due diligence on it before we took over the company a few years ago, that we really liked. But firstly, its location. It's permitting. It's an agricultural area. It's not in a pristine environment. It's not close to an indigenous reserve. And even the agriculture there is sort of marginal, so it's not high land value use. So you're not, having major conflict, between who's going to use the land and what for. So that's the first thing, that location. Then just the nature of this deposit: shallow open pits, a very simple process, no sulfides, no deleterious elements. So even though we will be cyanide leaching, but it's at the lowest concentration possible. And then with cyanide destruction, it's just about all wiped out, and you're down to sort of nothing. So it's naturally a very, very clean deposit, and in a great location. So it's sort of hits, and far enough away from people that no one's going to be bothered by it. So it sort of ticks all the boxes.
And then in tandem with the permitting process, what other work is TriStar focusing on at Castelo de Sonhos?
Right now, obviously, we're the permitting has been the main focus, but in the background, we're ticking over, some of the geological work, some minor optimization studies, sort of in preparation for the final feasibility. Obviously geological mapping, trenching, and work like that. Soil sampling is always going on, just to look to where the ore bodies potentially extend. And we're running a few metallurgical tests as well, again aimed at plant optimization to make potentially incrementally improve plant economics, and at the same time probably environmental controls as well. So just a lot of preparation work ahead of the feasibility study, really.
And assuming positive news on permitting, what options for the project is the company considering?
So anticipating getting that in Q1, and then really the next phase that needs to happen is a feasibility study, which will take maybe 18 months. And then into construction. So what we're looking at is how that's going to happen, where the money's going to come from for that. In reality, I mean, there's only really 3 routes, which is someone buys us and they do it. We partner with someone in some format and we do it together, or our staff run it with input from another company, or we go alone. Really, bottom line, everything's on the table. The market dictates a little bit sometimes which ones are more favorable, which ones are not. Right now, the market is still depressed, even though we've got a really high gold price. And, that would maybe sort of push us towards that middle route of a partner, someone coming in, taking a stake in the company, and we move forward and get that feasibility study done. But really, everything's on the table. Whatever's best for the shareholders is what we'd do.
And has the recent spike in gold prices impacted the options under review?
I don't think it's impacted the options yet, because that price, that increase in share price hasn't flowed down to the juniors yet, the junior developers. So it doesn't directly impact us. What it does do is it obviously makes the project more attractive at a project level. So have some people who are looking at it and thinking, okay, what can we do with this to be building it within 2 years at these gold prices? It becomes more and more attractive for sure.
And what would it cost to take the company through to feasibility, do you think?
Oh, over 18 months, probably $10 to $12 million. We cover it. It's all the drilling you're doing, all the studies, and running the company, and and the sort of the last bits of the installation license permit, which shouldn't be too much. So it'll be about around 12 million, 10 to 12.
And are you looking at any changes in scope vis-a-vis the pre-fees?
No, not really. No, we're still looking at the same size project. Maybe, like we said, we're doing some little metallurgical test work to improve or optimize the plant a little bit, but it wouldn't really be a drastic change at a macro level. You'd still be at sort of 10,000 tons a day, it's just a matter of if we can, work trade-offs between operating costs and recovery and things like that. So, yeah, it's really the same project, just moving forward.
Got it. And assuming a positive outcome on the LP, are there any other permits that would be required to build or operate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly the list here. I do remember, the last company I ran with in Chaparral, I think we needed something like 70 permits to get Gemfield started. So wherever you are in the world, there's a whole lot of, there's a major permit and then there's loads of minor ones. This will be exactly the same. But the next sort of big one would be they call the installation license, which is the engineering license to actually build. But that's a lot simpler process than we've just been through. So, there's no community engagement, there's no public hearing. It's just, okay, here's the engineering drawings. This is what we're going to do. Here's the borrow pits, and here's where the temporary man camp's going to be, and things like that. So it's a much simpler process than we've just been through now. So, but that would be
assuming a positive outcome in Q1 and 12 months for a feasibility, would you anticipate that the project could be in construction mid-year next year, mid-year 2025 rather?
Towards the end of 2025 would be about the quickest you could do it. Yeah. That would be full speed ahead.
And maybe you could give us a little bit of an update or an overview on permitting in Brazil, particularly in Pará State, and recent permits that have been given out. Like, how's the sentiment from the government?
The government sentiment's been, for us, it's been really good. I mean, the engagement with the government, even post the public hearing, sort of on a day-to-day basis, we were communicating with them. But, we've seen other companies move forward, get their projects in good time. Obviously the main one that we look at is, G Mining and their great success they're having in Tocantinzinho. They're obviously probably 3/4 of the way through construction now. So they've got all the permits, all the land use requirements done. I mean, in a more challenging environment than we're in. So they've done a great job there. And I think that shows the government's, wants to do proper mining with proper mining companies, rather than, the good impos, the illegal miners in the illegal areas who do end up with environmental contamination. They want to do things properly. So, I know G Mining are a great company and will do things really well, and we'll do the same here.
And how far is Castelo de Sonhos from TZ?
I think it's about 400 or 500 kilometers, 400 kilometers, something like that. It's a good solid day's drive anyway on the roads there.
And can you remind us of the production profile for Castelo de Sonhos?
Yeah, we'll be at 150,000 ounces a year for the first 7 years, and then it sort of drops down to about 80 or 90,000 for the last 3 or 4 years. The average is 120, but some of the geological work that we've been looking at is sort of aimed at increasing that high grade, that first 6 years, if we can push that out to 7 or 8, because that has a big impact on economics, obviously bringing that cash flow forward. And
that upside could be, discovered through drilling. Is that the idea? Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, just through drilling, through extension of the known reefs that we're following now. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the exploration upside? I know you're not currently drilling, but how many meters of drilling is the current resource, and what's the average depth of the drilling, and where do you see some potential? Yeah, so there's about roughly 70,000 meters of drilling on the property completed right now. I'll have to be not quite sure how much of that is actually in the resource, but the majority of it is. So when we look at our drill patterns, it's pretty tight around our reserve areas. Our general drill pattern is 120 meter deep vertical holes. So, average hole depth would probably be 90 meters, 80 meters, something like that, because there are a few shallower ones in places. And really the chance to improve is massive. I mean, just with the style of deposit as a paleoplacer, it's not like an epithermal deposit where there's temperature and pressure dependent, and if they change, you're not going to have any deposition. This is just an alluvial fan, and it's just gravity taking gravity taking gold down in the water. And if there's gold there, if it's upstream, it'll be downstream, and it'll continue to be there. It's not sort of like it can be in one spot and not another. So it's really just a matter of drilling more and more to upgrade those or increase those resources, probably. And is there potential for additional mineralization styles in addition to the paleoplacer?
Yeah, there is, because this is, the paleoplacer here is about 2.1 billion years old, and the granite, the whole area around us, it's like an island floating on this granite that's about 300 million years younger. So when that intruded, there's a very good chance it remobilized some gold. There's some faulting and fracturing around there as well, so they can act as conduits. And yeah, so there's it would be quite normal that in these old paleoplacers like that, you will have another style of gold where maybe this paleoplacer gold has been remobilized and reconcentrated into a structural environment. So that's something we're always looking for.
Interesting. For those that are not that familiar with paleoplacers, can you provide some examples of analogs?
Yeah, the main ones that are similar to Castelo de Sonhos would be Jacobina in Brazil, and then in West Africa, Tarkwa and Idiapriem, which are goldfields, and Ashanti and Anglo Gold Ashanti. They're the main ones of the same age. The paleoplacers are poorly understood by many of us geologists because there are a massive number of them around the world. But when they're there, they're big and they produce a lot of gold. But there are also great variations in different types. You'll get things, like the Witwaters around South Africa is a paleoplacer. We're not analog to that. That's much older. It's a different style of paleoplacer, and it would be incorrect for us to go, oh, it's another Witwatersrand. It's not. It's a different beast completely. And then you get some of the paleoplacers that people see, like out in Western Australia and some of the very old rocks there. Very nuggety. Probably a lot of gold there, but it's very hard to determine and enumerate how much there is. These ones, the 2.1 billion year old ones like Tarkwa, Jacobina, CDS, fine gold, fairly well distributed. So it's easy to drill, easy to target, easy to identify. So, there's a great range on them, but the similar ones would be Jacobina and Tarkwa.
Got it. And maybe this is a dumb question, I'm not sure, but is it a type of deposit where you have to be a specialist in that particular style to be able to develop a mine? Like you hear certain companies are very good at like certain types of mineralization. Is this like a specialized category like that, or can any gold company really develop this?
I think you need to be quite specialized to do the exploration, for sure. You need to understand these. It's a slightly different way of thinking. most gold deposits are, simplistically are vertically, and you got fluids coming up. This one, it's coming laterally. You need to turn everything on its side. So I think but there are a lot of different features in the exploration. Once you get down to mining, I don't think so much. You're down to, what's a block of ground worth? What's this 3 meters by 3 meters worth, and what's it going to cost me to move it? And if it's worth it, it goes to the plant. If it's not, it goes to the waste dump. It's the same as when you speak the difference between an exploration geologist and a mine geologist. Exploration geologist has got hundreds of different rock types, and the mine geologist has got maybe 3, or waste and something in between.
Okay. Last couple questions. So can you provide an overview of the next major news items over the next 3 to 6 months?
Obviously the next major one's going to be the LP, hopefully coming, and after that it'll be the path forward. The chosen partner, or we're going ourselves and we're financing that somehow. So really those are the main things. We'll probably put out news on the optimization things we're doing and ideas we have there. But the big news is going to be related to the permitting and moving the company forward, moving the project forward towards production. But it should be exciting because, once you've got that permit, you've got your environmental permit on a 1.4 million ounce reserve in a great mining jurisdiction. You just got to look at the value of companies. Even we mentioned G Mining earlier. You look at the value of them; they're in construction, so they're sort of one phase ahead of us on the curve. Gives you a sort of an idea of the value we would be shooting for at that point.
You did a top-up financing last summer. What's your current treasury look like, and how long will that last you?
The current treasury will get us through that decision-making process and well into next year. We can survive all the way through next year, but we would need to do something really to kick off and get moving again. So And that was the idea of that financing, was to make sure we can get the permit and get through that decision-making process on how we move forward at that point. So we're comfortable right now.
Right. Well, sounds like you've got some exciting catalysts coming in Q1. So looking forward to that. And thanks for providing an update. I think a lot of people had questions about the public hearing and sort of what happened. I know you had a video that you sent around that's gotten actually incredible engagement. Unfortunately, for those of us that don't speak Portuguese, it's a little bit incomprehensible, but great to see. Like, I think the last time I looked, you had nearly 2,000 views of that video alone.
Okay, well, yeah, I will say before I sign off is like that team, the team down there that we have for TriStar did an amazing job. I know they were nervous going into that, and and I think the last thing I said to them was like, you don't need good luck because you've done great work going into this. And it was true. It was all reflected the professionalism of that event and the success of that event, the fact that so many people were there, but the people who were there were well informed already, and very, with full transparency. It wasn't like we were trying to snowball them or something. They knew the project, they knew what was happening, and and it will be a good project for the region. So.
Well, it sounds like you've got a supportive community behind you, which makes the difference.
It does, yeah.
Well, thanks for the update, Nick. If anyone has any questions that didn't get answered, feel free to reach out. I can get those answered for you. Or if you'd like a one-on-one call with Nick, feel free to reach out to him or myself to get that set up. And yeah, appreciate everyone's time. And thank you, Nick, for your time.
No problem. Thanks a lot.